Hello, welcome to IPBC Global 2015, coming to you from the Palace Hotel San Francisco. You know, what's most interesting about IPBC is that the topics change so dramatically whenever the conference is held, both IPBC Global and IPBC Asia. This time around, we've heard in the opening session that it's a buyer's market, and Nader Mousavi is with us. You're a well-established authority in the patent industry. Tell us what your assessment of the opening plenary was. What was the most important points to come from that?
You know, I think there are a few key points. One is that the patent market has changed significantly in the last several years and has adjusted to the conditions that we're operating under. There are changes in the legal environment. There are decisions that have devalued patents from a damages perspective. There's legislation that has made it harder to assert or has made patents that don't have strong quality easier to challenge. As all of these developments take place, the patent market has adjusted significantly. One thing that has happened is that although the values have come down somewhat, the volume has actually ticked up. And then the size of the portfolios that are being offered is increasingly smaller because buyers are looking for well-documented portfolios that meet their specific interests.
Smaller families.
Smaller families. And so that was a major takeaway, I think, from today, is that the nature of the market is dynamic. It has adjusted to the various circumstances that we're talking about, and continues to thrive even though it is not making the same headlines as it did in its peak in 2011.
When the pricing was discussed, which is obviously an important point for every one of the delegates here today, there was some concern that actually the prices come down to very, very low levels. Is this as much of a concern for you, both in your role as partner at Sullivan Cromwell or in your broader role teaching at Stanford?
No, it really is not a significant concern because I think that, as they said today, the value of the portfolio or the family that's at issue will just depend on the circumstances and the buyer. There are portfolios and families where a single family of patents are going for $1.5 million or more. And those were cited by some panelists as kind of the high watermark in their own experience. And a low watermark was cited at $5,000 per patent in a significant portfolio that has changed hands recently. During that discussion, because that can leave one who's listening to that with the question, you know, where is this? Sounds like it's all over the map. What is the value? And we all want a clean, clear answer of the inherent value. Unfortunately, there is no single answer. The answer depends very much on the quality of the patents, the technologies they cover, who else in the market is practicing those patents, how encumbered the patents are already, that is, to what degree they're already licensed to the key parties who would be using those patents. And so when you take into account all those factors and whether or not it is truly strategic to any of the potential buyers, you can end up with a huge range of potential value or worth. The question being, what is it worth to the particular buyer? So we heard a low water mark of 5,000, high water mark of $1.5 million, and I think that type of thing will continue. And buyers will continue to buy to meet their specific interests and needs, but there will never be a sort of a single answer. It'll be a broad distribution. And the question I think we could say is statistically, where are the values falling more often than not? And sometimes you hear $100,000 per family or $200,000 per family. These are really just not terribly useful in terms of applying them more broadly, but they are the kinds of numbers that we're hearing when we find out what is really happening in the market.
That's very interesting because watching you on stage and watching the panelists on stage, I got the sense that there was a little bit of worry, a little bit of concern about the trend of prices coming down. What I'm hearing you say, though, is there is no trend.
You know, I think maybe to sort of restate it a little bit, I think there is a trend towards values coming down to reflect sort of the hard realities of what the patents are worth. However, I think that what's really happening is that buyers are more sophisticated. They are really focusing on valuing patents in a way that more truly reflects the quality, and I think that's a good thing. So yes, values can come down somewhat as an overall trend, but at the same time, if the valuations are true to the quality and true to what the patents reflect, and the transactions are still happening at a higher rate, in fact higher than in the last several years, then that means that the patents are finding their way to what I call their highest and best value. Sometimes they're held by a party who may not be able to actually value them and use them as highly as someone else. And so, like in any market of assets, they're liquid and they can change hands, and I think that's a good thing.
When you say true value, of course, that's when we can get into all sorts of discussion, which of course you'll be able to see when you watch the full length version of the plenary discussion this morning. If you are a delegate at IPBC, you will have access to that. In the meantime, Nader Mousavi, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us
Thank
today.
you.
Who's a partner at Sullivan and Cromwell here at IPBC Global 2015 in San Francisco.